Hi, and welcome to QEP 3T, Teachers Talking Technology. I am Patrice Williams-Shuford, the Quality Enhancement Plan Director here at Northwest Florida State College, and today I am joined by two professors from the Mathematics Department here at the college. I have with me Professor Allison Godwin and Professor Darren North, and they're going to be talking about two different but a little bit similar tech tools that they use to engage their students in their classes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask the same questions to both of you, but I'm hoping that we can get a conversation going about how those tools that you use can kind of be similar in some respects, but also different in what you're trying to achieve with your students. So I'll start with you, Allison. First, tell us what you teach here at the college.
Hey, I teach mostly the liberal arts math courses. So right now they're MGF 1106, MGF 1107, and then I also teach the developmental math. This semester I'm teaching MAT 22, and I also have one section of pre-calculus.
My goodness, you have quite a variety there.
Yes.
Do you use Socrative with all of your classes?
I use it in the liberal arts courses, and then occasionally I'll use it in some of the other classes from time to time if like a certain activity leads to it, but I use it pretty much every day in the liberal arts courses.
Awesome, and I would like to say, I meant to say at the beginning that I have had the pleasure of observing both of these classes, so I have watched you use Socrative, and we'll talk a little bit more about Socrative later and what it actually is and how you use it with your students. But Darren, would you share with us what you use and how you use it and what you teach?
So I teach intermediate algebra, college algebra, pre-cal, elementary statistics.
My goodness.
And math for liberal arts too, and occasionally Cal 1. I've only had to teach it once out of 4-1. Mm-hmm. So I use Kahoot with all of those courses as a means for test review and for conceptual knowledge check.
How do you keep your classes straight? I think that was more than you have.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
It has me beat.
It is difficult.
Okay. So while you are sharing with us, and I'll come back and ask you the same thing, how do you use Kahoot to engage your students? I know you mentioned review. Are there other ways that you use Kahoot with your students?
After every 3 or 4 sections, if it fits in correctly or it fits in right, I will throw a quick conceptual check and then have them work out problems as well. And it breaks up the monotony of class, and the students seem to enjoy it.
Absolutely. One of the things that I really enjoyed when I was observing your class is that when you reveal the answers, if a lot of students got something wrong, then you stopped and you talked about that concept and you worked that concept out on the board. I think it's very useful for that. Now, we're just saying Kahoot, 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 and perhaps the viewers or listeners don't know what Kahoot is. What is Kahoot as a technological tool?
It is a web-based quiz platform, and it has a nice mathematics editor in it. So, that's it.
Okay. Excellent. I know that a lot of professors have used Kahoot, so they're probably familiar, but they may not be as familiar with Socrative. So would you share with us what that is?
Yeah, Socrative is basically like clicker questions, kind of, but a little bit more. So if you remember, like when I was in undergrad, we would have clickers that we would bring to class, and you would have to, that's how they would take attendance. So it's kind of like that, but they do it on their phone or on their computer. So most of them use their phone during class, and they just go onto the website. And then throughout class, the way I have it set up is I have, they have guided notes. So in the liberal arts class, there's a ton of word problems. So I give them guided notes so that they don't have to be copying word problems down, because that's just kind of a waste of time for them to be copying word problems down.
Right.
And they'd rather work more problems. So throughout class, like we'll do a couple of examples, and then I'll give an example and I'll say, okay, this is a Socrative question, and so they'll work it, and then they know they need to type their answer in. So it's not all multiple choice. They can type in numbers, or we just finished up our logic unit, so they were typing in sentences in there. So I like that it's not just multiple choice, because the students actually have to try it out and work the problem. Yeah.
Yes.
Can I add something? That's one of the things that I'm not very happy with Kahoot about, is that it's mostly multiple choice.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's when a tool like Socrative could be also used. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you both on, because I had observed you use the two different tools, and I am sure that there is some sharing that you could do about using one tool in another class and so forth. So how do you feel your students have benefited from using these tools? And we'll start with you.
Well, it helps clarify conceptual holes really fast. So student, after we cover the material in class and maybe they're working on homework, when it's, staring them right in the face in the form of a game, they either know the concept or don't.
Right.
And the idea is, I think it works, is for them to fill that conceptual hole and move on.
I love how you call that a conceptual hole. You put it so fancy, I would have just said a gap in understanding, but I love that conceptual hole. And how do you feel students have benefited from the use of Socratic?
I think it helps me as a teacher because I can see what they're missing. So like even today in class, we were working with like data sets. And so we were specifically working with like frequency tables and calculating statistics from the frequency tables, which is something that they may not have seen before. And so like we did an example today and pretty much all of them got them wrong. And I did I throw up the answers and we talked about like one of them was like for test scores. And some of them had said that the like mean test score was like a 7. And I was like, well, does that make sense? Like, hopefully not based off of the data, but it doesn't have their names attached. I can see who everybody was, but I'm able to put it up just with the numbers. So, we were able to talk about, okay, that doesn't make sense. So like maybe you messed something up if you got an answer that was way off, or if you got a mean of 150, something's way off. So I think it helps them to kind of see some errors that other students make, and then try to be able to correct those. So then today we ended up doing a couple more examples because they weren't getting it.
And this is all anonymous, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I can see what they enter, but when I show there's a toggle and I never put their names up.
Right. I love that. In fact, in class, I use Poll Everywhere today for that same reason, the anonymity of it all.
Yeah.
I think it helps them not be afraid to share what their answers are so that they can see, where the whole class is with different things.
Right.
So are there other tools that either of you hope to use, you've heard about, you think you might use in your math classes?
I've heard of BlueKit before, but it's similar to Kahoot.
Similar.
So I'd like to play around with that. And then I'm always on the lookout for interesting new technologies.
Okay, yeah, BlueKit was introduced, I think, like 2 forums ago, and we'll talk about the forum in just a minute. But yeah, it's interesting, and a lot of professors find it even more engaging than Kahoot.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what about you?
I was recently just in a webinar with some Pearson products, and they have something that's kind of like the clicker technology or Socrative that's built in with all of their stuff. So I'm looking into that a little bit more, but it's called Learning Analytics, I believe. Okay. And so that's built in with all Pearson products. So that's something I'm going to look at and maybe try out soon.
Okay, wonderful. So I want to thank both of you for your time. I appreciate it greatly. And while I have you listening or watching, I'd also like to thank all of the faculty, include the 2 of you, for attending our Fall Faculty Forum that was held on October 18th and 19th. It was absolutely wonderful to have so many faculty come out and learn about new engagement strategies that you can use with your students. And we have coming up in January for our adjuncts, the Adjunct Summit. It will be our 2nd annual Adjunct Summit. I appreciate all that you do as faculty to engage our students and also to engage each other. And as always, go Raiders.